You can't tell the story of Monmouth University athletics without Dr. Marilyn McNeil, who after 28 successful years will retire. I was able to sit down with Dr. McNeil and get her thoughts on her career. It's hard to reflect on a career as distinguished as Dr. Marilyn McNeil, but we're going to try today. And Dr. McNeil, when you think back, your time at Monmouth, 28 years, but your time as a coach and administrator spans way beyond that. So when you think back, have you had a chance, I know it's been so busy, but have you had a chance to reflect over these last kind of crazy and busy few months about your long and distinguished career?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I think it's really a hard question to answer because every step, every change I made, I always thought, okay, is this a good move? Is this what I should do? And there were times when I probably wasn't a good move. It probably wasn't the right move. But the thread of it all was I just love this profession. I love the whole athletic enterprise. And I know that I was going to be okay as long as I was attached to it in some way. So it's been far more rewarding to me than I've ever given reward to anything else. It's, you know, I have gotten so much out of it, and if I made a difference in some people's lives, I'm really happy about that. But I gained so much, and I gained so much in respect for the profession, respect for the people, the coaches, institutions of higher education. I loved it.
You spanned every aspect of higher education and athletics. Coach, administrator, athletic director, but when you broke in, you were a coach. You were a student athlete, you were a coach, and I know that you really value the student athlete and coach relationship from your time in that role all the way through now.
Yeah, I think maybe if I have one regret, I never should have left coaching. I loved it. I still hear from some of my athletes. You know, you have such a chance to make a difference in a young person's life, and it goes on and on giving back in so many ways. And so yes, I think that the coach-athlete relationship is one of the strongest teaching, learning relationships that exists. There's such a connection, there's such an impact that they can make. They're so valuable, and you really need good coaches, and they'll find good athletes, and then what's left? It's all going to be good.
You mentioned learning in your previous answer, and something you've always taught all of us is it's athletics, but it's education, and it goes beyond the playing field. And has that been something, it's been pretty much a constant in your career, but when did that start for you, that you recognized just how much education takes place in the world of athletics, be it from a coach or an administrator?
That's a tough question, Eddie. You know, I loved being an athlete, a student athlete from 7th grade on, and I thought, okay, 7th grade I'm going to teach and coach junior high school. And then I got into high school and I loved it, and I said, okay, I'm going to be a high school coach. And then I got to university and it was marvelous, and I said, I want to be a college coach, and if there was a PhD school, I would have been a PhD coach. But along the way, I loved the process of learning. And so I think it was natural for me to think that these two go together. And in great respect to the institution, Washington State University, where I got my terminal degree, that was the best academic experience I had, and it had nothing to do with athletics other than my major research was in the athletics field. So I do respect it, and I think it's something that my parents instilled in me, but I've loved learning, and I continue to love learning. And so I think that when you have a chance to do what you love, and then it shouldn't be a side effect, but you get an education, what could be better?
Your experience as a student athlete and then as a coach, from afar, looks like it shaped how you ran an athletics department and what you expected from coaches and from administrators. But kind of the constant that we've noticed working with you and being able to observe all this is you're always being an advocate for the student athlete and their experience, and in meetings you always would bring it back to that. And I think it taught a lot of us the ability to think like that. Do you take that from your time dealing with student athletes at that level, at the coach level? Because all the way through right now, when through June 30th, it's always something that's been constant in your life is them being the number one goal and the number one priority.
I think that comes back to being treated a little unfairly as a young coach. I didn't really see it as an athlete because I was just enjoying the experience of competing, and if I got to play a game, then I was excited. But as I started to coach and sort of the inequities of it, and I saw that our male student athletes were receiving something that I felt our female student athletes really deserved. And when I eventually moved to the United States, where I thought it was just going to be so golden because they seemed to be so far ahead of Canada, I realized that our football male athletes and our basketball male athletes were just receiving so much. And I'm an old track athlete, so you know, I understood that other kind of distaff side of athletics, and so I think I became a proponent of treating people fairly, and it didn't matter so much the gender as the opportunity that every student athlete mattered and their experience mattered. And when you finally get to that point where someone, and I think probably the greatest compliment I can have is for a student athlete to come up and said you cared about me, regardless of their sport, then I've accomplished what I thought was unfair when I was coming up through the ranks.
And that experience, you know, when you look back at the story of equity in college athletics in this country, Title IX is always the legislation that comes up, but I know that was something you championed as soon as you kind of made that move here, and you see it carry into your time as an administrator where there is equal treatment, there is equal opportunity, but you mentioned it was unfair, and I know that was a fight, and I know that you've been in this game long enough to see that fight and then all the way through what it's become now.
Yeah, I remember coming here, and I think there were a lot of people that were very scared that I was going to go out there on the field and burn my bra and become this woman's liber, and all men sports were just going to go into the garbage. And it was so not me, because I cared about student athletes. And the sad thing about it, just the women's Final Four, you know, it still isn't equal. And then the NCAA is frustrating to me because then you go into the College World Series, softball World Series, where there's just tremendous viewership, and they do it again. They don't treat the women like they treat the men. And so what do you need to do to wake them up? You know, I suggested to the committee that was, or the company that was looking into the gender issues in the NCAA, and I really, in seriousness but facetiously, which I often do, I said, why don't you hand out hearing aids to them before you start your presentation, because somebody has to finally listen to what's being said. And you know, social media, thank heavens, I mean, sometimes I wonder about it, but thank heavens it brought to light some of the real disagreements on how important all of our student athletes are.
Interesting that you bring that up, because you're outspoken on the one hand for equal fair treatment and for everyone to get a great opportunity, but on the other hand, and this doesn't always go hand in hand, you're outspoken to have a competitive funded football program that is now competing at the highest level of FCS football. Some people look at that and wonder, can a department do both? And I know that's something that you've spoken about before. Yes, you can treat everyone fairly. Yes, you can have ultra competitive national championship caliber football, and that's been important to you. Like you said, day one, did you have to sell everyone on your vision for that, or has it just been a natural progression?
Oh no, there's lots of selling.
Okay.
Lots of selling, right from the very beginning. And you know, I had enough experience that I sort of knew what kind of athletic director I wanted to be, and I certainly, you know, knew what kind of department I wanted to have. It took a long time to get there, and we still have many steps to take, much more to do, and I am really looking forward to how Jeff Stapleton takes us to a new level. But you know, I talk to, and I find some of the, and I appreciate completely the Power 5 schools. They have a much different game that they're in, and much more difficult, much more complicated and complex. But I love this level, and I do believe that I can say to our student athletes with great sincerity that we will give you what you need. We won't necessarily give you what you want. And that, to me, allows us to be really good at everything that we do. And why can't we be a national champion in FCS football, and at the same time send our track javelin thrower to the national championships, and do it with great aplomb, and make sure that they have what they need. Great coaching, that's the first thing you need. And we've been working hard at improving facilities so they have a safe place to train. But you know, at the end of the day, that good athlete that cares and wants to compete for the pride of Monmouth has to find it within herself or himself, and we'll do everything we can to push them in the right direction.
So all of those answers kind of add up to a lot of winning, and whether it's a Commissioner's Cup or an NCAA tournament berth, the common thread in your tenure at Monmouth has been success. It's been winning in another Commissioner's Cup in the McNeil. It used to be in the Northeast Conference. And I know it's very important for you based on everything you've already told us. Every sport matters, every sport winning matters, and I know you're a hyper-competitive person. So when you see the athletes and coaches are able to deliver championships, how does that make you feel?
This is what we're about. I mean, don't tell me that it's okay to be second. It's not okay to be second. Let's figure out how we can be first. And you know, I take great pride in it, but we are competing, and it's not, and I love club sports, and I love intramurals, and I love recreation, and I try to stay fit myself just on a regular basis, but I'm not in any competitive sport. But competitive athletics at this level, the institution puts a great deal of resources into being competitive. So come on, let's do this, let's get it done, because if you're not there, then we got to get there, and sometimes change has to happen.
I will never forget you standing in front of the group of student athletes for our banquet the one year, and everybody was feeling good about themselves, and Monmouth had finished second in the Commissioner's Cup. It was some years back, and I'll never forget that was the thing that you left everyone with, and I'm pretty sure that the department rattled off 3 or 4 in a row after that. So even when you're the AD, you're still coaching.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I don't want to be second fiddle. You know, I want to be at the top of my game. I want to give what I can to be the best leader, you know, the best director, but at the same time, I can only do so much, and our coaches need to get those student athletes to give all they can give. Yeah, so don't hesitate, go win.
You know, one of the things people, I think, off campus don't realize is the champion, and it's kind of a theme throughout your career, right? Fighting, competing for things that you believe in. I think something a lot of people don't realize is when you got to Monmouth versus now, athletics was viewed very differently on campus. And evidenced by the fact that you're retiring not only as the AD, but as a vice president in your role on campus. When you advocated for overall athletics on Monmouth's campus all these years, and over in the Great Hall, and having those conversations, I'm sure those weren't easy as well, especially early on when the department wasn't as big as it is now. But when you look back and see where athletics was to where you're leaving it, how does that make you feel?
I was thinking, you know, going over to the Great Hall to meet with the president over my years and my 5 different presidents. And most of the time I would be going over there pretty nervous. I had an agenda, but you know, how was the president going to take it? And you know, I would leave sometimes happy, proud. I got what I thought was right, and then I would leave other times pretty singed because I didn't get it. And you know, as I say to my coaches, you know, you're going to come and ask me for something, and I'm probably going to say no, but I don't expect that that's the last time I'll see you. I want you to go back and think about it, and how can we get to yes? How can that coach plead with me or inform me or convince me that there should be a yes in there? And it may be just moving the deck chairs, as President Gaffney used to say, but I think that that's really important. And for me it was, okay, I believe that athletics should be a part of an institution, not apart from, and that is the message that took a long time for this institution to grasp. And every time I went to argue or to get something that would allow that to happen, and I didn't get it, all it did for me is, okay, how do I go back and try again, maybe from a different perspective, understanding a little bit more of the institution. And being part of the President's Cabinet allowed me to understand the other issues on this campus, so that athletics didn't become this silo, didn't become this place that was just living within its own self. It has to live within an institution, and the educational mission. And once we got going in that direction, then I think we got a lot more people on board, because we weren't trying to work against an institution, we were trying to work with. You know, we can really help enrollment, we can really help marketing, we can really help get the news out about Monmouth University. And so there's lots of things that we can contribute, and getting the institution to understand that we're not just something that spends money, but we give so much back.
Going to be hard to, I think, answer this next one, but memories and looking back, and it's hard because you have so many great ones, I think, to choose from, whether it's individual success, team success, department success. Are there any that stand out to you when you look back, maybe a first championship, a breakthrough moment, a great individual performance by a student athlete? Or what are the ones that, I guess, come to the, bubble to the forefront of your mind when you think back?
Oh boy, that's tough. And after, as I'm getting older, my short-term memory, I'm not sure which one's going first, but memory is definitely at odds here. I guess, without a doubt, I think that first NCAA chance in men's basketball was huge. It just, I remember, I think it was a cartoon or somebody from the Ashes, and we were as low as we could go, and to come back and do that was really fabulous. And we had so many good years there. I think one of the, well, I have two really recent memories. I watched my very last home game as an athletic director, and I watched a walk-off grand slam home run to win the game. So I walk away from the bleachers and I said, wow, okay, I'm done. So that was a thrill. I think watching the FCS playoff game when we had it, that was a thrill. The Justin Robinson years, Allie Wilson, those were special. And there's so many track athletes that really shone for us. The tennis teams and their continual wins and just walking over people. Lacrosse, men's lacrosse, getting to the championships in the 4 short years, and then having a special graduation for them. I think I could just go through maybe all the sports, and I think watching the first field hockey game, watching the first women's lacrosse game, watching golf watching the bowling alley. I mean, those were moments when we really added opportunities for women. And you sit back and you go to that game and you think, yeah, look at these women out here. Look at these 25 women. And if we hadn't done that, they wouldn't be here and they wouldn't have this opportunity. So sorry, I'm long-winded on that one, but I think I probably left off so much. And right away I'm thinking I forgot to mention the dominance of women's soccer, men's soccer. So I'm sorry, I could go on.
You don't have to apologize. This is your interview. Memories are one thing. I think something that everyone here would want from you, because you did it so well for so long, and it really showed so many of us how to be a successful administrator and also coach. What advice would you leave for Jeff Stapleton? What advice would you leave for anyone who wants to pursue athletic administration? What were the things that made you so successful that you could pass on to kind of the next group?
I would say always, it can never be about you. And I tried to make that pretty clear, that when there's a trophy presentation and when we're being presented a trophy or we've won a conference championship, the last person I want to see on the field is myself or an administrator. There better be the coaches and there better be the athletes, and everybody else needs to be in the background, because it is about them. And it's, we are in a service industry. We are here to make sure that the coach can coach the athlete as much as possible. And when I was first a coach, I found that I couldn't do that because I was so busy trying to be an administrator set up the court, set up the score table, find somebody to be a scorekeeper, you know, clean the floor, wipe the bench. And when the buzzer sounded to start the game, I realized I hadn't talked to my players. And so that was an inequity that I saw. And so when I became an administrator, I wanted to make sure that the coach got to coach. So don't, you know, people are very kind to me right now, and they say that I've accomplished all these things, but I didn't accomplish it. The people around me accomplished it. The athletes accomplished it, and I'm proud, but it wasn't me. It's everybody else. And so I think, you know, I think as administrators, we sort of have to be the mom and dad, and let our youngsters fly. And let them be mentored by just really strong, good people. And then I think it's golden. But the minute we start to think that we are the ones that created the success, that I need to have a pat in the back, we lose focus, and we can't do that.
You're still gonna watch? You're still gonna be a fan? You're still gonna come back when you can?
I am. The only plan that I've made right now is I'm not gonna spend any more time in New Jersey winters. So I'm dissing those, but yes, I'm going to be a fan. I'm going to be here, and I think, you know, I have 3 grandkids, so I don't care so much about my children right now, but my grandkids are the light of my life. So, you know, so I'll make sure I'm back to see them, and of course, this is a special place for them. They've been here since they were born, and you know, they just consider this their home school. So yeah, I'll be back. And you know, there's so many good people here. I've hired a lot of them, mentored a lot of them, and I just can't walk away and say, okay, you know, I want to see them succeed. I can't be influential anymore, but I sure want to see them reach the highest heights.
Maybe not on paper and in a direct report influential, but you'll be plenty influential.
Yeah.
Are you still gonna let Hank come around?
Oh my Lord. He tends, every time I turn around, he's right behind me, so I don't know. I'm not so sure I ever invite him anywhere, but he definitely invites himself. So yeah, I'm sure he'll come by, yeah.
Well, for the hundreds of coaches and administrators and thousands of student athletes and countless others that you've impacted so much throughout your career, on behalf of all of them, allow me to just say thank you and best of luck in retirement.
Thanks, Eddie. This is fun.